Hello there, everybody, and welcome. We are live here from Spear Studios. My name is Max Harper. I'm one of the directors and owners here at SpearShield. And joining me today, we've got the lean, mean mobile threat hunting machine, Benedict Jones, CEO and founder of Traced, home of the trusted MTD. What Ben is going to be covering off in the session today is we're going to be looking at all of the different sections of the Cyber Essentials certification where mobile devices are in scope. And then Ben's going to give us insight into the different options we have available as organizations to be able to help us kind of prove and achieve compliance against each of those. So what I'll do, I'll get Ben on the screen so he can say hello to everybody, and then we can jump into the presentation.
Hello. Hi, everyone. What an intro. Lean, mean, mobile threat hunting machine. Love it.
He's not that mean.
Yes, that's it. I'm quite kind. It's fine. So really quick intro about me. I've been working in cybersecurity for around about a decade. Worked for some of the kind of giants of the security industry, the likes of McAfee and Sophos. And back in November 2019, co-founded Traced, and here at Traced we are a team of mobile privacy and security experts who protect businesses against cyber attacks and data breaches by securing their smartphones and tablets. And the way that we do this is with our AI-powered, mobile privacy-friendly MTD solution, which is called Trusted MTD, and it also enables organizations to meet their compliance. Now, I guess to kind of jump over to the title slide here, you may have decided to attend today's webinar for a couple of reasons. Maybe you're going in for Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus for the first time and wanted to understand how you can achieve compliance on your mobile devices, specifically on your BYOD mobile devices potentially. Or maybe you've already got Cyber Essentials and you wanted to validate and ensure that you're continuously compliant on those devices. Whatever the kind of driver is, that's ultimately what we're here to help with today, I guess, to answer those key questions to enable you to become and ever more importantly, to stay Cyber Essentials compliant on your mobiles. Now, to, I guess, kind of contextualize and explain why we picked this particular topic today, I'm going to wind the clock back to 2020. So at Traced, we were going in for Cyber Essentials for the first time. And the drivers behind our initiative to Cyber Essentials Certify were, number one, we liked the idea of the free cyber insurance. And number two, we were onboarding some kind of high diligence clients. And we wanted to impress them by evidencing how seriously we took security, really. And so after making that kind of business case, and going in for the Cyber Essentials certification, we reviewed the assessment criteria, and we found ourselves a little bit confused as to exactly what we had to do on our mobiles. Bear in mind we have a hybrid combination of both BYOD and corporate-owned mobiles in the equation, and that was a bit of a red flag because we thought that was the part of the Cyber Essentials criteria we were going to absolutely breeze through as mobile security experts. But we did a bit of research and spoke to a number of other organisations and realised actually this is quite a broader issue. It's widespread. Other organisations were similarly struggling to understand how they can meet the Cyber Essentials compliance criteria and what they needed to do on their mobiles. So we did the legwork. We figured out what we needed to do for those devices, and in fact, we've been Cyber Essentials Plus certified for over 2.5 years now. And since then, we sort of set out on a mission, I guess, to help other businesses in similar situations. And over the last 2.5 years, we've done that through sessions like this, and primarily through our mobile threat defense solution, Trusted MTD, which we've designed and developed to be the most straightforward way that you can achieve Cyber Essentials compliance on your mobile devices for your organization. And in fact, we've helped a number of organizations and are actively helping many more to achieve exactly this goal today. We even took it a step further. In fact, we even took it a step further and ended up joining forces a bit with the National Cybersecurity Centre and joined their accelerator program, where we I guess kind of discussed and engaged with their experts in order to drive towards a shared goal of improving national mobile security, and Cyber Essentials and the alignment to mobiles forms a substantial part of that. So what are we going to cover in today's session? Well, I'd like to kick off the webinar by reassuring you that, don't worry, I won't be using any kind of cheesy Christmas cracker-esque cybersecurity jokes as sort of cheap tactics really to keep your attention. But the first question I'm going to be answering is, how did the cyber criminals hide from the police? They ransomware.
I haven't got any canned laughter to play, I'm afraid, Ben.
The questions I'll actually be answering throughout today's session are: why should you Cyber Essentials certify? What's in it? What's the business case? What are the benefits? Number 2, which of your mobile devices are in scope? BYOD, corporate owned, all of them in scope, and none of them in scope? We'll find out and hopefully get clarity on that. And thirdly, and crucially, how can you meet Cyber Essentials compliance on your mobiles and ultimately prevent data breaches for your organization? Now, you may notice that I haven't put the initialism BYOD anywhere in these key questions. The reason for that is, don't worry, we will be covering BYOD in detail. It's just the Cyber Essentials criteria applies to BYOD and corporate owned in a very similar way. So fundamentally, devices are in scope or out of scope, and therefore they're mandated under the same criteria. They need to meet the same standards, which we'll cover off a bit later on in the presentation. So to start off with, why Cyber Essentials Certify? So many of you may know, but Cyber Essentials Certify is a government-backed scheme set up by the NCSC, which is part of GCHQ, and provides a great sort of foundation to evidence appropriate security measures are being taken, and that you guys, your organisation, take security seriously. The benefits of it are: you get free cyber insurance. It's not the broadest coverage of insurance. It's not the best cybersecurity insurance, but it is free. Secondly, it's become a requirement for government suppliers. So maybe as part of your business operations, you are a government supplier and supplying to government, and then Cyber Essentials is becoming mandated for that to continue. Number 3, it helps to develop and enforce customer trust. So this is the key driver behind us going in for Cyber Essentials. I've lost count of the amount of times that I've distributed and sent out our Cyber Essentials Plus certificate as part of those kind of due diligence processes with prospects and with clients. And the final kind of key benefit here is that it can help you to avoid costs and avoid incurring any sort of damages, and save money by reducing the risk of cyber attacks and data breaches by a substantial degree. So now that we've covered off the kind of business case, the benefits for attaining Cyber Essentials compliance, the next key question to answer is, which of your mobiles are in scope? Well, here we've got the boundary of scope as taken from the Cyber Essentials assessment criteria itself, and we're going to be honing in on this section that you see I've outlined in red here. The short answer to the question here, which mobiles are in the scope, is any device which accesses organizational data or services. This encompasses both BYOD or corporate-owned devices in exactly the same way. The only exception to this rule is if a mobile device is solely used for the purposes of making phone calls via the native phone app, sending texts via the native text app, or providing multi-factor authentication via an authenticator app. If any of those or all of those are the sole purpose for a specific mobile device, then it's actually exempt here, so it's out of scope in those scenarios. But assuming now that at least some, if not all of your mobile devices do fit within the scope there, the crucial question that we're here to answer today is, how can you achieve Cyber Essentials compliance on them? So to help understand what you need to do to meet and indeed retain Cyber Essentials certification on your mobiles, I've put together a brief criteria checklist for you. The assessment itself is formed of 8 sections. The first 3 sections are about your company, the scope of assessment and the insurance, and then the remaining 5 are different areas of security which are depicted and represented by the sort of 5 points of the star there you can see on the right hand side. Those are the different sections, security sections of Cyber Essentials criteria. The first question in the Cyber Essentials framework, in the criteria, that pertain to mobile devices is in section 2, which is in the scope of assessment. And that states that you must maintain an up-to-date list of all of your mobiles, so that's tablets and smartphones, that access organizational data and services. This includes both BYOD and corporate-owned devices the same. Now, the challenge that's presented here is without the right set of tools, this is pretty much impossible, definitely impractical for any business to achieve. If you think about how frequently you have to, everyone updates their OS versions. You know, iOS had 2 critical vulnerabilities last week. You may have seen in version 15.6.1 that came out. Realistically, maintaining an up-to-date list and keeping up to date of minor OS updates is simply unfeasible without the right solutions in place. But don't worry, again, these are all challenges that we're here to solve, so we're going to come on to the kind of solutions a little bit later on. The next section, in fact, the first section of the security areas of Cyber Essentials that apply to mobile devices are in section 5, which is entitled Secure Configuration. This states that on all mobiles, all unused apps must be uninstalled. Only required user accounts should exist. Now, you can have multiple user accounts per mobile device. Again, it's not a particularly common I guess, scenario, but it is an available option. And naturally, that shared devices in this context aren't supported for having multiple accounts per device. Non-default passwords must be set. Again, it's not particularly common with Android and iOS devices. Out of the box, they don't have a password set. You set it as part of the onboarding process. But if you receive devices that are maybe pre-staged and have a default password set, or maybe they're purpose-built devices, POS systems, these kind of things, they may well have default passwords that need to be changed. And the key part of this section, pun intended, is around authentication, which is 5.10, where authentication must be enabled on your mobile devices. That could be biometric, passphrase, password, any form of authentication, but it does need to be set there. As this presents a risk, without it, it presents a risk because many users do actually disable authentication for convenience, so they can get into their phone a little bit quicker. So the key challenge and I guess kind of question to ask yourself is, how are you ensuring today that users do have passwords set on any of their mobile devices that are in scope? The next section is security update management. Now, it was formerly called patch management, but they renamed it as they don't really care about features. It's more about security updates, so it only exclusively applies to security updates. In order to meet this section, you must ensure that all running OS versions and apps are running supported versions. Devices must not be jailbroken or rooted. And security patches must be installed onto mobile devices within 14 days. Considering iOS 15.6.1, for example, last week, we're coming up to that window where users where devices have to be running up to date, have to be running 15.6.1 to be considered compliant with Cyber Essentials. So the challenges presented here is, how do you identify devices which are no longer supported by the manufacturer or running supported versions of the operating system? Another challenge, how do you identify users who have poor security hygiene and continuously ignore the 5-minute process of installing an update on their device? The next section, access control, section 7. This states, quite simply in terms of pertaining to mobile, you must have a leaver process to ensure that leavers can no longer access company data from their mobile devices when they leave. This is something that you can achieve with, for example, if you have Microsoft 365 and are using Exchange Online, you can achieve this to an extent with that. If you're just using email, for example, but there are more, I guess, kind of comprehensive solutions to make this more achievable, which again, we'll cover off very shortly. And the final section of Cyber Essentials that applies to mobiles is section 8, malware protection. Now this actually split into you've got two different options available. Option A is that you must have anti-malware installed on your mobile devices. That anti-malware must be able to scan and block malicious websites in the equation as well. Or the other option is option B, which is where you maintain an approved apps list and ensure that is enforced on devices. Again, devices are not allowed to be jailbroken or rooted, just to reiterate, which also appeared in the secure configuration section. Now, here at Traced, and what I recommend is meeting both of these. Future-proofing fundamentally the assessment criteria by ticking both of these boxes. Hence, it's an and/or situation. If you can meet both of these, again, it makes you a high-hanging fruit. It manages the risk better and reduces the likelihood of your organisation suffering a data breach or a cyber attack off the back of a mobile-borne threat, which are rapidly growing. This particular, just to hone in on section 8.5 there, around you must have an approved list of apps that you maintain and enforce within your organization. The wording of this particular section can be quite confusing. In fact, we get asked about this particular one quite a lot. So you see there with the white background, we've got answer 8.5. If you've chosen option B there, where you use an app store or application signing, do you ensure that users only install applications that have been approved by your organization? And do you document this list of approved applications? Now, the question that commonly arises is, does this apply to all apps on a device, or is it only apps that access organizational data and services? The reason being that in the context of BYOD, it's pretty much unfeasible to consider or to expect an individual with their personal device to only install apps that appear on a specific list, particularly if the example here provided from this real world FAQ taken from a LinkedIn group around Cyber Essentials, particularly if you're working with a lot of contractors, for example. Fortunately, the answer is, in fact, whilst it's not clear in the wording, IASME have confirmed that actually the approved apps list only relates to apps that access organizational data or services. So that's what the approved apps list needs to cover. The next FAQ that we commonly see is related to personal mobile devices that are solely used for making phone calls and for MFA. Now, this commonly occurs as many organizations, many employees distribute their personal phone number to clients, for example, and to colleagues and to I guess kind of work partners. And again, as MFA becomes the standards as MFA becomes enforced, they can use those personal devices commonly for that purpose as well. Fortunately, as we mentioned earlier in the scope, it is early in the presentation, it is out of scope under that scenario, as it meets that exemption criteria for ticking the native voice applications and potentially the multi-factor authentication app checkboxes as well. Now, the final FAQ, again, that we see pretty commonly, if a BYOD device is running an older OS that is no longer supported by the manufacturer, does that mean the BYOD device must be taken out of circulation? The answer is yes, it does, because at that point, if it's running an out-of-date OS that is no longer supported, therefore it is non-compliant and it should no longer be able to have access to organizational data and organizational services. So to kind of, I guess, answer the key question here, how can you meet Cyber Essentials compliance on your mobiles? And understanding what you need to do, what the criteria is that covers them, I've distilled and we recommend 3 different cost-effective options in order to meet Cyber Essentials compliance on your mobiles. The first of which is using Trusted NTD, our mobile threat defense platform, which we've designed and developed to be the easiest way to meet and evidence Cyber Essentials compliance on your mobiles. We have continuous Cyber Essentials compliance monitoring built in for you, and you can ensure compliance without invading your employees' privacy, which makes it an ideal fit for BYOD. The second option is to use an MDM. MDM is commonly also called EMM or UEM, again, whichever three-letter acronym Gartner decided to call it this year. But they're all fundamentally the same thing, and it's the MDM component specifically that is most significant here. So what an MDM enables you to do is you can secure your devices through configuration. You can restrict the config, you can lock them down, which reduces the attack surface and therefore satisfies the criteria of the Cyber Essentials assessment. It does, however, present some blockers and some, I guess, kind of political challenges, let's say, in terms of employee privacy, particularly when it comes to BYOD. Equally, if you restrict down corporate devices too much, you can end up with a load of very expensive paperweights, which I've seen time and time again, in that employees simply can't do what they want to do with them. They're literally just an email machine, for example, and generally they end up sat in a drawer for a significant part of their life. But the third and, in fact, best, most complete protection offering or solution is to combine the two. In fact, they were designed to work together. Mobile Threat Defense was designed to plug the security gaps in MDM. MDM providing the management side of things and MTD providing the security side of things. They do indeed work in tandem and augment each other so that you can, again, optimally reduce that attack surface, retain the employee privacy retain employee privacy where BYOD may be causing some friction and ultimately being rejected potentially by some employees. And of course, you can manage that risk exposure to mobile-borne threats. So with those kind of, now that we've covered off, which mobiles are in scope, why Cyber Essentials certify, which mobiles are in scope, how to ensure compliance, and the solutions that are available, we've teamed up with the guys at SpearShield and are offering as an exclusive, I guess, reward for your guys' attendance to learn about Cyber Essentials and how it applies to mobile devices. We're offering a free mobile Cyber Essentials compliance check in which we'll jump on a call, understand your specific environment, how you use mobile devices, and then can align that specifically to a recommended solution and in fact get you on a free trial of Trusted MTD to start protecting your devices and start being able to evidence that CE compliance as soon as possible.
Brilliant. No, thank you, Ben. And yeah, we can see the dashboard view from the Cyber Essentials compliance reporting screen from Trusted MTD too. So if anyone would like to take us up on the free mobile Cyber Essentials compliance check, this is the view that would be able to have a look at your mobile devices in real time to see if they'd be compliant or not. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to either myself or Ben from Trace, and we'd be more than happy to help. The session today has been recorded as well, so we'll get that a copy sent round to everyone. And we've just had a question come through as well. How many devices are included in the free assessment, and how can Trusted be rolled out? So we'll answer this one live, and I'll just publish that. So there isn't there's no cap on the assessment. Obviously, we want to help you get visibility and understand, the compliance status of every device that may be in scope. And Ben, would you like to cover how Trusted can be rolled out and the different implementation methods?
Yeah, definitely. So there's quite a few at sort of disposal depending upon your existing solution stack, depending how you use mobiles today. If you have nothing in place on the mobile devices, we have multiple email-based enrollment options available. Again, we've got it's a very seamless. It's only a few taps to get from receiving an email to fully protected, and with an enrolled instance of the app. If you have mobile device management in the equation, we can automatically configure it via mobile device management so that it kind of automatically enrolls and checks in and does all of the I guess kind of reduces the taps for the users. So again, it just automatically can enroll in. In terms of I guess kind of bulk enrollment there via email, we integrate with Microsoft Azure Active Directory, so we can pull the users out of Azure Active Directory, and at the click of a button you can send the link out to as many devices as you want. We also have 2 different enrollment options available depending upon what type of a device it is. So if it's a corporate device, you can enroll in corporate mode, where we'll share a lot of threat intelligence information from those devices. Or for personal devices, to again appease any concerns about employee privacy and remove any objections, then we have personal privacy mode, which basically means all we will share with the organization is a red, amber, or green compliance status of that device. And that can then be leveraged for A, evidencing Cyber Essentials compliance, and B, implementing and adopting zero trust principles. So we can restrict access to company data depending upon whether devices are in compliance, or if they're out of compliance, we can again safeguard that data, keep you compliant and keep you protected as well.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Ben. Great. So thank you everyone for attending. That's a wrap from us today, and we look forward to seeing you on the next session. Thanks all.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.